Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Um, we are going to continue this study, the reading of Genesis. Welcome to anyone that's coming up, to anyone that are just passing by, and to listen to the stories that we have learned. And we have learned so far from centuries. It has been histories from ourselves as human beings to continue to repeat the same mistake over and over again. So as we read about our ancestors, hello, hi, we now going to continue with Jacob. If you have a Bible and with any language, anything, so I read it in English. I have Haitians just like me. If you have a Bible in Creole, in French, whatever, you can actually continue and read with us as you follow through just stories, things that as we read, we get to know our past, things, the mistakes that we have made, mistakes that we continue to make over time, and maybe we can learn from it and decide how exactly we want to continue ourselves. All right, so we are going to continue with the book of Jacob. As before we continue, the Lord has says, wherever one or two are gathered into my name, I am present. So we invoke into the name of Jehovah as we learn our past history, as we learn about God Himself. So we are going to, Jacob right now has dreams, and God has presented in front of him. And now we are going to continue in Genesis 29, verse 1. After that, Jacob resumed his journey and traveled on the land of the people of the east. Now he saw a well in the field and three doves or sheep lying down next to it, because they usually watered the drove from that well. There was a large stone over the mouth of the well. When all the drove had been gathered there, they rolled away the stone from the mouth of the well, and they watered the flocks. After which they returned the stone to its place over the mouth of the well. So Jacob said to them, "My brothers, what place are you from?" To which they said, "We are from Haran." He said to them, "Do you know Laban, the grandson of Nahor?" To which they said, "We know him." At this he said to them, "Is he well?" They replied, "He is well. And here is his daughter Rachel coming with the sheep." Then he said, "It is still the middle of the day. It is not the time for gathering the herds. Water the sheep, and then go feed them." To this they said, "We are not allowed to do so until all the drove are gathered and they roll the stone away from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep." While he said yet speaking with them, Rachel came with his father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, Jacob immediately approached and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and raised his voice and burst into tears. And Jacob began to tell Rachel that he was the relative of her father and that he was the son of Rebekah. And she went off and told her father. As soon as Laban heard the report about Jacob, the son of his sister, he went to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him and kissed him and brought him into his house. He began to tell Laban all these things. Laban said to him, "You are indeed my bone and my flesh." So he stayed with him a full month. Laban then said to Jacob, "Just because you are my relative, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me, what are your wages to be?" Now Laban had two daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger Rachel. But the eyes of Leah had no luster, whereas Rachel had become a very attractive and beautiful woman. Jacob had fallen in love with Rachel, so he said, "I am willing to serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." To this Laban said, "It is better for me to give her to you than to give her to another man. Keep dwelling with me." And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. But in his eyes, there were like just a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give over my wife because my days are up, and let me have relations with her." With that, Laban gathered all the men of the place and made a feast. But during the evening, he resorted to taking his daughter Leah and bringing her to him that he might have relations with her. Laban also gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a servant. In the morning, Jacob saw that it was Leah, so he said to Laban, "What have you done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why have you tricked me?" To this Laban said, "It is not our custom here to give the younger woman before the firstborn. Celebrate the week of this woman. After that, you will also be giving his older woman in exchange for serving me 7 more years." Jacob did so and celebrated the week of this woman, after which he gave him his daughter Rachel as a wife. Besides, Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her servant. Then Jacob had relation with Rachel, and he loved her more than Leah, and he served him for another 7 years. When Jehovah saw that Leah was unloved, he then enabled her to become pregnant. But Rachel was barren. So Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son and named him Reuben. For she said, "It is because Jehovah has looked upon my affliction, for now my husband will begin to love me." And she again became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and then said, "It is because Jehovah has listened, in that I was unloved, so he gave me this one also." Then she named him Simeon. And she became pregnant yet again and gave birth to a son, and then said, "Now this time my husband will join himself to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." Therefore he was named Levi. And she became pregnant once more and gave birth to a son, and then said, "This time I will praise Jehovah." She therefore named him Judah. After that, she stopped giving birth. When Rachel saw that she had borne no children to Jacob, she became jealous of her sister and began to say to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I will die." At this, Jacob's anger flared up against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has prevented you from having children?" So she said, "Here is my slave girl Bilhah. Have relations with her in order that she may bear children for me." Haven't people ever learned? We only make mistakes over and over. We only repeat the things that we have made. Do they even listen? Betrayal from time to time, it's repeated so far over. over and over again. So let's just keep reading. Betrayal of his uncle for the first woman that he was supposed to marry with. And then afterward, married to another sister. And because the first one wasn't love, God gave her the blessing of having children and not the second one, for she was loved more than the other one. And now she's doing the same thing that um, Sarah, Abraham's wife, had done, giving her servant to her husband to have children. That is why she named him Dan. All right, so now he gave her the servant to have kids for her. And that through her, I too many have children. With that, she gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob had relations with her. Bilhah became pregnant and in time bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, God has acted as my judge and has also listened to my voice so that he gave me a son. That is why she named him Dan. Bilhah, Rachel's servant, became pregnant once more, and in time bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, with strenuous wrestling, I have wrestled with my sister. I have also come off the winner. So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as wife. Jesus Christ. And Leah's servant Zilpah bore a son to Jacob. Then Leah said, with good fortune, so she named him Gad. After that, Zilpah, Leah's servant, bore a second son to Jacob. Then Leah said, with my happiness for the daughters will suddenly pronounce me happy. So she named him Asher. Was she really happy? She was not happy. She continued to give her servants to the husband because she's looking up to fulfill a hole, a spot high, a spot that she has that void that she's trying to fill up, which she could never really fulfill. So now her husband has children with two other servants, two sons. If that was really the case for her to be happy, as though she claimed that she was happy, why didn't she stays with the other two sons the first servants gave birth to? We seek things from places that, oh God, we seek those happiness in places that they don't belong. Now Reuben was working in the day of the wheat harvest, and he found mandrakes in the field. So he brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, please, some of your son's mandrake. At this she said to her, is it a small matter that you took my husband? Would you now take my son's magic also? So Rachel says, very well. He, w- he will he down with you tonight in exchange for your son's magic. She has become obsessed with these things. When Jacob was coming from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, it is with me you are going to have relations, because I have hired you outright with my son's mandrake. So he lay down with her that night. And God heard and answered Leah, and she became pregnant, and in time bore Jacob a fifth son. Then Levi said, God has given me my wages, because I have given my servant to my husband. So she named him Issachar. And Leah became pregnant once more, and in time bore six sons to Jacob, that's her sister. Then Leah said, God has endowed me, yes, me, with a good endowment. At last my husband would tolerate me, for I have borne him 6 sons. So he named him Zebulun. Afterward she bore a daughter and named her Dinah. Finally, God remembered Rachel, and God heard and answered her by enabling her to become pregnant. So, in these all, as we say, she claimed that God now was upon her with all these children that she was having with her servants. Um, Impatience, lack of faith. For yes, it wasn't her fault that the first marriage, she wasn't the one who got married first. But as the father said, back then they have rules, they have laws to follow. Younger daughter doesn't get married before the firstborn. So he didn't know that he was a stranger in the land. So they should have actually told him of that, but he didn't know. So now Rachel become obsessed with having kids, and did not really put her faith into God, did not pray to God first. She acted upon herself. She made her own decisions. This is where, and then ended up having all these kids with her two servants, and also make bribe with her own sister, the first wife. And now she has her own kid. God has given her own kid too much. She was going out of her mind, really. Sorry. And she became a woman and gave birth to a son. Then she said, God has taken away my reproach. So she named him Joseph, saying, Jehovah is adding another son to me. After Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob immediately said to Laban, send me away so that I may go to my place and to my land. Give over my wives and my children for whom I have served with you, that I may go, for you well know how I have served you. Then Laban said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, I have understood by the omens that Jehovah is blessing me because of you. And he added, stipulate your wages to me, and I will give them. So Jacob said to him, you know how I have served you, and how your herds have failed with me. You had little before my coming, but your herd has increased and multiplied, and Jehovah has blessed you since I arrived. So when will I do something for my own house? Then he said, what should I give you? And Jacob said, you will give me nothing whatsoever. If you will do this one thing for me, I will resume shepherding your flock and guarding. I will pass through your whole flock today. You set aside from there every sheep speckled and with color patch, and every dark brown sheep among the young ram, and any colored patch and speckled one among the she goats. From now on, these must become my wages, and my righteousness must speak for me on a future day when you come to look over my wages. Everyone that is not speckled and colored patch among the she goats and dark brown among the young ram will be considered stolen if it is with me. To this Laban said, that is fine, let it be according to your word. Then on that day he set aside the he goat stripped and colored patched, and all the she goats speckled and colored patched, everyone in which there was in white, and everyone dark brown among the young rams, and gave them into the care of his son. After that he set a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. Jacob was shepherding the flock, and Laban that remained over. Jacob then took freshly cut staff of the storax, almond, and plane tree, and he peeled white spot in them by exposing the white wood of the staffs. Then he placed his staff that he had peeled in front of the flock, and he gathered in the drinking pots where the flock would come to drink, that they might get into heat in front of them when they come to drink. So the flocks would get into heat in front of the staff, and the flock would produce stripes, speckled and colored patch of spring. Then Jacob separated the young lamb and turned the flock to face the striped ones and all dark brown ones among the flocks of Laban. Then he separated his own flocks and did not mix them with Laban's flock. And whenever he harvested, animals would get into heat, Jacob would place the staff in the gutters before the eyes of the flock, that they might get into heat by the staffs. But when the animals were weak, he would not place the staff there. So the weak one always come to be Laban's, but the robust one become Jacob's. And the man grew very prosperous, and he acquired great flocks and male and female servants and camel and donkeys. In time he heard what the son of Laban was saying. Jacob has taken everything that belongs to our father, and from what belonged to our father, he has amassed all his wealth. When Jacob would look at the face of Laban, he saw that his attitude toward him was not what he used to be. Finally, Jehovah said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your father and to your relatives, and I will continue with you." Then Jacob sent a message to Rachel and Leah to come out of the field to his flock, and he said to them, "I have seen that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You yourselves certainly know that I have served your father with all my power, and your father has tried to cheat me and has changed my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to do me harm. If on the one hand he would say, 'The speckled ones will be your wages,' then the whole flock produce speckled ones. But if on the other hand he would say, 'The striped one will be your wages,' then the whole flocks produce stripes one. So God kept taking your father's livestock away from him and giving it to me. Once when the fog got into heat, I reserved my eyes and saw in the dream that the he goat mating with the flock were stripes, speckled and spotted. Then the angel of the true God said to me in the dream, 'Jacob,' to which I said, 'Here I am.' And he continued, 'Raise your eyes, please, and see that all the he goat mating with the flock are striped, speckled, and spotty. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the true God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now get up, go out of this land, and return to the land of your birth.' At this, Rachel and Leah answered him, 'Is there any share left for us to inherit in our father's house? Does he not consider us as foreigners, since he has sold us and has been using up the money given for us? All the riches that God has taken away from our father are ours and our children. So then, do everything that God has told you to do.' Then Jacob got up and lifted his children and his wives on the camels, and he began driving all his herd and all the goods that he had accumulated, the livestock in his possession that he had accumulated in Padan to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole the teraphim statues that belongs to her father. Moreover, Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for he had not told him that he was running away. And he ran away and crossed the river, he and all he had. Then he headed toward the mountainous regions of Gilead. On the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had run away. So he took his brothers with him and pursued him for a journey of 7 days and caught up with him in the mountainous region of Gilead. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night and said to him, "Be careful about what you say to Jacob, either good or bad." So Laban approached Jacob, as Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountain, and Laban had encamped with his brothers in the mountainous region of Gilead. Then Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? Why have you resorted to outwitting me and carrying my daughters off like captive, taken by the sword? Why did you run away secretly and outwit me and not tell me? If you had told me, I could have sent you away with rejoicing and with songs, with tambourines and with harp. But you did not give me a chance to kiss my grandchildren and my daughters. You have acted foolishly. It is in my power to do harm to you, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Be careful about what you say to Jacob, either good or bad. Now you have gone because you have been longing to return to the house of your father. But why have you stolen my goods?" Jacob answered Laban, "It was because I was afraid, for I said to myself, You might take your daughters away from me by force. Anyone with whom you find your goods will not live. Before our brothers, examine what I have and take what is yours." But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Ugh. So Laban went into the tent of Jacob, and into the tent of Leah, and into the tent of the two slave girls, but did not find them. Then he came out of Leah's tent and went into Rachel's tent. Meanwhile, Rachel had taken the teraphim statues and put them in the woman's saddle basket of the camel, and she was sitting on them. So Laban searched through the whole tent, but did not find them. Then she said to her father, "Do not be angry, my lord, because I am not able to get up before you, for the customary thing with women is upon me." So he searched on carefully, but did not find the teraphim statues. At that, Jacob became angry and began to criticize Laban. Jacob then said to Laban, "What is my offense, and for what sin are you hotly pursuing me? Now that you have searched through all my goods, what have you found that belongs to you, to your house? Put it here in front of my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the two of us. During these 20 years that I have been with you, your sheep and your goats never miscarried, and I never ate the rams of your flock. I did not bring you any animal torn by wild beasts. I would stand the loss of it myself, whether the animal was stolen by day or was stolen by night. You would demand compassion from me. By day the heat consumed me, and the cold night, and sleep would flee from my eyes. This make 20 years for me in your house. I have served you 14 years for your two daughters and 6 years for your flock, and you kept chasing my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the one whom Isaac fears had not been on my side, you would now have sent me away empty handed. God has seen my affliction and the toil of my hands, and that is why he reproved you last night." Then Laban answered Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, and the children my children, and the flock my flock. And everything you are looking at is mine and my daughters. What can I do today against these or against their children whom they have borne? Now come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it will serve as witness between us. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Then Jacob said to his brother, pick up stones, and they took stones and made a pile. After that, they ate there on the pile of stone, and Laban began calling it uh, Jigar Sahaduta, but Jacob called it Galid. Laban then said, this pile of stone is a witness between me and you today. That is why he named it Galid. And they watched over, for they said, let Jehovah keep watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters, and if you start taking wives in addition to my daughters, though there is no man with us, remember that God will be a witness between you and me. Laban went on to say to Jacob, here is the pile of stone, and here is the pillar that I have erected between you and me. This pile of stone is a witness, and the pillar is something that bear witness, that I will not pass beyond this pile of stone to bring harm to you, and will not pass beyond this pile of stone and this pillar to bring harm to me. Let the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the one whom his father Isaac feared. After that, Jacob offered a sacrifice in the mountain and invited his brother to eat bread. So they ate and spent the night in the mountain. However, Laban got up early in the morning and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned home. Jacob then went on his way, and the angel of God met up with him. As soon as he saw them, Jacob said, this is the camp of God. So he named the place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brothers Esau in the land of Seir, the territory of Edom, and he commanded them, this is what you will say to my lord. To Esau, this is what your servant Jacob says. I have resided with Laban for a long time until now, and I have acquired bulls, donkeys, sheep, and male and female servants. I have sent this message to inform my lord in order to find favor in your eyes. In time, the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we met your brother Esau, and he is now on his way to meet you, and there are 400 men with him. And Jacob became very frightened and anxious, so he divided the people who were with him, as well as the flock, the cattle, and the camel, into two camps. He said, if Esau attack the one camp, then the other camp will be able to escape. After that, Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Jehovah, you who are who are saying to me, return to your land and to your relative, and I will deal well with you. I am unworthy of all the loyal love and all the faithfulness that you have shown toward your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray you, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid of him that he may come and attack me, as well as the mothers and their children. And you have said, I will certainly deal well with you, and I will make your offspring like the grain of sand of the sea, which are too numerous to count. And he spent the night there. Then he took some of his possession as a gift for Esau his brother. 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 female sheep, 20 ram, 30 camel nursing their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 full-grown male donkeys. He handed them over to his servant and drove after another. And he said to his servant, cross over ahead of me, and you are to set a space between one drove and the next. He also commanded the first one, and in case Esau, my brother, should meet you and ask, to whom do you belong? And where are you going? And to whom do these ahead of you belong? Then you should say to your servant Jacob, it is a gift sent to my lord to Esau. And look, he himself, he is also behind us. And he commanded also the second, the third, and all those following the drove. According to this word, you are to speak to Esau when you meet him. And you should also say, here is your servant Jacob behind us. For he said to himself, if I appease him by sending a gift ahead of me, then afterward, when I see him, he may give me a kindly reception. So the gift crossed over ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. Later during that night, he rose and took his two wives and two female servants and his 11 young sons and crossed over the ford of Jabbok. So he took them and brought them across the stream, and he brought over everything else he had. Finally, Jacob was left by himself. Then the men began to wrestle with him until the dawn broke. When he saw that he had not prevailed over him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated during his wrestling with him. After that he said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. To this he said, I am not going to let you go until you bless me. So he said to him, what is your name? To which he said, Jacob. Then he said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For you have contended with God and with men, and you have at least prevailed. In turn, Jacob inquired, tell me, please, your name. However, he said, why is it that you ask my name? With that he blessed him there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, for he said, I have seen God face to face, yet my life was preserved. And the sun was upon him as soon as he passed by the Peniel, but he was limping because of his hip. That is why to this day the sons of Israel are not accustomed to eat the thing sinew, which is on the socket of the hip joint, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip joint by the thigh sinew. Hmm. Okay. All right. So we are going to leave right here in Genesis 33. So Jacob has I said that Jacob had fought an angel, but he did not let the angel left without. Hello everyone. Hello. So Jacob has prevailed over his father-in-law. He had although the men tried so many times to outrun him, take over things that he had. 20 years you work, 20 years he has worked, and all these times he was taken advantage of. He got married to the one woman, married twice, and had many sons, 11 sons from his two wives and the two other servant girls that his favorite wife has gave him. And now he was set to go back. Jacob was the one who was favored by Sarah, took upon the blessing of Esau, right, as we know the story, and now was set to go back home. And now he was afraid that his brother, as he was going to face the brother who would remember the things that he did, to take away the blessing, because Esau was the firstborn son. Based on biblical um, teaching, the firstborn son usually comes to be the one who take up after the father. So Abraham blessed, become blind and blessed Jacob without knowing. And Esau was jealous and got mad because of it. And but since he had the blessing, God remains with him. God blessed him, and we have seen so many mistakes from you know uh, um, his wife, who has given him could not wait for and go first to God to ask God for his own children, and therefore ended up having multiple kids with these women, and now he then faced with God. He says, well, that was God himself. The Bible says he faced with the men. He battled the men. The men broke his hip. There are many consequences, and one of which, in so many times, that when we fail to obey God, God also, we have to also face the consequences of our actions. That's what it is, and he has been so for centuries, for decades. So it is upon us to decide what exactly are we going to do, which path are we going to follow, what decision are we going to make. Should we decide to do the wrong thing even though we know it is? Should we decide to do what is right? As we see, when those who goes after us to harm us, God does not really let them prevail. Although Jacob spent 20 years working, giving his hard work, his sweat to this man to gain things, and he continued to betray him, he prevailed. Every time this man switch the path of flux so that he can get things, God, with his own invisible hands, change the course of action. So every time he changed the flux, he's the thing that he changed for himself to become richer, get even lower, and God changed the omen, which is the good omen, and upon Jacob, blesses Jacob instead, and his flock become unbearing, unfruitful. So with that, I would say we may, it is upon the same thing with our lives. I have also have witnessed in my own life that even upon many times of distress, without knowing, God is working. It's working His will. It's afterward you will realize that okay, this is what is going. So this is the blessing that God has given upon me. So just remember those things. As we do the right thing, God will remain on our sides. As we continue to treat our brothers and sisters with respect accordingly, for God says, do to others what you want to be done to you. So we just have to treat other people the way we want them to treat us. So that the blessing comes upon you. You don't want to take away your own blessings and give it to somebody else who's doing something bad. So, with that says, we look into ourselves. I ask that we also look and remember those stories, the mistakes, as we, even if you are a woman or man, the mistakes that many of them has done, the mistakes that Jacob has made. He did not ask questions, so he just and he was baffled because of it. So we read those stories. It's just like reading this story that Oprah Winfrey write, or one of our favorite superstars. To me, it's the Bible. The reason why I decided to read those things is to look into the stories that are so far past, so that can guide me in my life. So I don't make the same mistakes that my forefathers had, my ancestors have made. To know, okay, we should all know when God offers us blessings. We should all know that because it's plain and clear. Because Jehovah says, love one another just like as you love yourself. Do to others what you want to be done to you. Praise unto Him, have no other God but Him. Those things, those commitments, those things, if we, and God does not impose upon us to do things that we do not want. He still give us a choice. The choice wasn't to Liban to do the right thing. He chose not to do the right thing. And at the end, it's all the way at the end when Jacob faced him, that's when he decided, okay, let's make a pact. But he had already done the wrong thing. He had already done so many wrong, and because he had done so many wrong, that's why God decided to take give the blessings to Jacob and make sure that he didn't have as much, because he was being untrustworthy. He was tricking the man over and over again. So we have to look into things. We have a brain, we are there to understand. What we need to do is look into the pattern of things, so we can learn from past mistakes, so we can try to do things, because God is not enforcing anything. He's not asking us to you must do. He gives you the will to choose to do the right thing. So it is upon us to decide if we want to continue as the path of Laban, if we want to continue to make mistakes, or if we want to do God's will, to follow by a rule, whether or not you Christian or not, it, you don't have to serve anything. It's up to you to decide. Okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to do the right thing, or do I want to do the wrong thing? As you know, if I do the right thing and I follow the law, I will be out of trouble. That's what it is to me. So to all and to each and every one of us. So I invite us to look into those things, to look into ourselves, to decide what are the steps that we're going to make to better ourselves, and in turn get the blessings that you deserves. So we ask that our Jehovah our God to keep enlightening us through the lives of our past ancestors, to keep looking into what they have done, to enlighten so that we can look forward and go by His law, so we can continue to earn His blessing accordingly. In the name of Jesus Christ, that has died for us in the cross and blessed us and washed away our sin. Amen. Have a wonderful day, everyone. May God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you for dropping by and listen to the messages. Bye.